With the departure of 3 executives, the heat is on at Yahoo and for CEO Carol Bartz. Yahoo shares down 15% already this year, and Yahoo's at a crossroads. Is the management shakeup a bad thing or just what Yahoo needs to turn around and become a real competitor with Google? Joining us, Youssef Squali, analyst with Jefferies, and Lou Kerner with Wedbush Securities. A lot of people still use Yahoo, and a lot of people still love Yahoo, but Lou, it doesn't ever seem to be enough. Does this company have what it takes?
Well, look, I think the losing people is obviously a really big problem, but I think even a bigger problem than that is the loss of their audience and the loss of an engagement of the audience that they have. And what they're going to need, I think, is a lot of innovation to grow that audience, and they really have not shown that capability under Carol Bartz to date to really grow their audience, and I think that's what they really need to do.
Okay, Youssef, you think that they would be better served at this point by going private. First, why? What does that do?
Well, a couple of things. Being public and trying to restructure is pretty tough because you have people like us that are judging them every 3 months. Going private effectively gives them the flexibility of making the tough decisions, making the right decisions for the business longer term. And I think, this is the 3rd management change in almost as many years, and I just don't think public investors are patient enough to allow them to go for another 2 years trying to prove the concept.
So if they go private, Youssef, at what price? I mean, is there any opportunity, if that event were to happen, for someone to trade it now?
Yeah, I think it would make a lot of sense even for people to be buying it right now. And so we actually published a note this morning with an analysis that showed that a go private or some of the parts would lead one to be able to justify a stock in low 20s. We think, remember, this is a company that has almost $10 billion in Asian assets. They have $4 billion in cash. Mm-hmm. They have a business that threw in off about $1.5 to $2 billion in cash flow a year. So there is real value here. Somebody got to unlock it.
So you think it could be worth low 20? I mean, in other words, you could buy it now and make money on the going private.
Correct.
Okay. Lou, what do you think about that? Do you agree, I guess, with Youssef's overall point of view that the sum of the parts here is worth more than where the stock trades? And maybe given just the overall atmosphere around this name, all these executive changes that appear to be constant, it's just not going to get there without real CPR.
Well, I think a lot of the value in going private is, or even in staying public, is in the Chinese assets, and so I think it's hard to put a really significant value to get to that $20 figure on the Chinese assets, particularly as private assets. That said, I think there certainly have been opportunities. Internet Brands was just brought private, but I think that was brought private because the buyers of Internet Brands saw growth in their properties that the market didn't see. Right. So I think that the opportunity here isn't for growth. The opportunity here is probably more in slashing jobs and slashing capital expenditures and really maximizing the cash flow out of it instead of maximizing the growth.
I think the issue with this is that this management team has actually been pretty public about not being that interested in spinning out or selling the assets. The reason being is some of these assets are thought of as being strategic, particularly the Chinese assets, maybe not Yahoo Japan, but certainly China. And in thinking about it that way, they're just not going to sell them.
And we're talking about Alibaba here?
Correct. Alibaba.com, Alibaba Group in general, and Taobao and the others.
All right, Lou, one final question to you. Everyone seems to say, okay, Yahoo is failing where Google is succeeding. But Google hasn't moved away from an ad-driven model either, and now we seem to see Facebook and other people coming in on Google's turf. I mean, is there a chance that Yahoo could come up with the next big thing for a search company to make money and leapfrog Google?
It certainly is possible, but they have not shown the tendency to drive growth, over the last couple of years. So, the likelihood of doing that, it's certainly possible, and they certainly have a lot of really smart people there. But, I think it's a really uphill battle, and the turnaround that they're doing, that is underway there is really, really hard.
Okay, well, thanks so much, Youssef, Lou. Appreciate both of your taking the time. Have a great weekend. Hope it's sunnier.
Thanks.